Hey, Julie, how are you? Sorry, I had some technical difficulties. Late getting on. Apologize. Hey, Vincy Loo Hoo, how are you? I'm trying to keep warm this Julie. Y'all ready for tonight? Hey, Miss Shirley, how are you? Feel like my throat has been croaky all day. Oh, what's going on? Hey, somebody holler at Liberty, at Karen. Tell her to get her ass in here. Tell her it's a shifter book and she'll be on in a hurry. Jackie's probably at the gym. Neener Beaner? Give it about 2 minutes now and I'll get started. I can see right now, if I'm going to do this angle, I'm going to have to keep everything clean and tidy. But I got an idea. Um, I've got a curtain coming that I'm going to put it back here. I'm getting rid of this one. And I'm going to put a curtain up here that has a library on it. So that when I'm reading, I can shut it. So that'll hide the window anyway. We'll hide everything else. I got my bookshelf put up this weekend, but it won't hold books. It's not tall enough. And it's really not long enough because everything's hanging off. So I'm gonna have to put just trinkets on there. So I'll take some trinkets off that one and put over there. All right, I think everybody said hi to everybody. One more minute and then I'm gonna get started. Believe it or not, my junk's not as untidy as it looks. Just a couple of piles, like this pile and that pile. And this pile. This was over here so that I could. That's my pen holder. My microphone. Yeah. I don't have to use. I thought I was gonna have to, but I don't. My whip stick. It's just crazy. Alrighty, y'all ready? Hey Patricia, how are you? Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get started since we're getting started late. Here comes the yawn. Y'all know it's coming. I think it's because of the way I breathe. I don't breathe correctly. And y'all, I scratched my eye, so I'm having to wear my glasses. So I gotta decide if I have to wear my glasses to read or how far back I am. I think I can do it like this. All right, you ready? Okay, chapter 1. It's been said the moment a part of you died, a new part is born, and it's then that life is understood. This is Alpha Redeemed, book 3 in the Rise of the Alpha series. Julie, how many books are in this series? Is this the last one, or are there more? Um, and these, I'm assuming, are not standalone. You need to start with 1 and read 2 and 3. What was number 2? Because I don't think I read that one. I read on here. Alpha Alpha Rise, I think. Okay. It's been said the moment a part of you died, a new part is born, and it's then that life is understood. Pain became such a huge part of Lucian's life that he expected it to always be there because he couldn't remember a time in his life when it wasn't. The abuse, the torment, everything. Then one day he felt something else, something new, and it felt wrong, very wrong, only because it wasn't familiar. And it was in that moment that Lucian realized he was happy. He rolled the body of his father onto the grounds of the fighting pit, the very one that was tainted with blood of the past pack members, the lives taken in the name of keeping the pack strong. His father's worst fault was his greed. If he couldn't have it, then he would simply take it. If that meant killing the owner, then so be it. He had no soul, no conscience, no love left in his blackened heart. Richard Blackcrown was many things, but being a father to his sons was something he would never be. Now that he was dead, the black cloud of despair seemed to dissipate in a way, but not completely. Dang it. Let's see if I can sit up. Lucian still needed to deal with his own inner demons, and in time he would. He first needed to gain the forgiveness of his people, of his mate, and most of all, himself. His father's greatest strength was his worst asset. He knew power and how to corrupt it to his own needs, but he never saw the backlash coming from his own son, Lucian. As Lucian learned of his father's plans to kill his eldest son and the newest pack master to the Golden Pack, his musings to take the women for his own, Lucian took matters into his own hands. He poisoned his father that one fateful day during the visit to the Golden Pack. Killian, Killian helped Lucian hide the body until it was safe to escape. Getting out of his father's monstrous rule was goal one. He had to do it. Now that Lucian knew there was a different way to live, a better way to exist, he had to make this happen. He needed for his father to understand there was another way, but he was too far gone and wouldn't see reason. He would attempt to rule the world if it were possible, even if said world was simply his pack. The eldest of the Golden Pack daughters, Cordelia, became his brother's mate, and the pack master's queen, so to speak. She also carried their unborn child. Lucian would be an uncle soon, and put a part of his heart and a part of his heart bled for the longing of his own child to raise. When Lucian met Sarah, Cordelia's sister, for the first time, it was then he realized he had met his mate. He wasn't expecting it, nor was she, but Sarah changed Lucian in many ways. It was unfortunate that during this event, Killian was in chains, a prisoner of his father's. Lucian had been released. Lucian could have released him, but during this time he was bloodthirsty, savage, and would stop at nothing to prove to his father he was worthy to be Alpha. His father would have never allowed Lucian any such role, but never gave reason as to why. He would torment him that he was never good enough, would never be the man his brother was. For many years, Lucian believed him. Then, when he met Sarah, she completely changed him from the disaster he was to the man he knew he could be. She made him want to be a better person. When he discovered there could be a different way to live, a peaceful way without violence, it was then he realized that was what he wanted. He tried to get his father to see reason, but as Richard plotted the death of his son Killian just so he could take over his new pack and lay claim to the sisters, Lucian poisoned him. Antidote in hand, he begged his father to change his mind. Until his last breath, however, Richard Blackcrown remained a monster. As the pack members filled the stadium, unsure of what was about to transpire, Lucian uncovered his father's dead body. Gasps throughout the stadium rang out, as well as finger-pointing accusations. A few of them questioned Who will be her new alpha? He felt numb. There was no other word to describe his current predicament. The man who should have loved and protected him had instead abused and belittled him on a daily basis. Lucian knew nothing of love. How could he lead with a level head and not understand peace? Not fully grasp the concept of what a family was without loving who he was. With a sigh, he stepped away from the corpse and looked at the members of his pack. Fear, anguish from years of abuse, trepidation, and the worst of it, the children's faces as they gazed up on the son of the monster. Terror. He lowered his gaze to the ground with a heaviness in his heart. Could he do this? Could he lead? Yes, in time he believed he could, but how? There was no trust. Without trust, there could be no love, no respect, nothing. A firm hand landed on his shoulder and he glanced at his brother Killian. He felt his eyes burn as tears threatened to spill over. He rapidly blinked them away and sniffed. What do I do? He whispered. Killian leaned in with a grin. You lead. He felt a small constriction ahead around his heart. It didn't hurt, but it felt different. Killian squeezed, then released. You can do this. Give them what they never had. A great leader and patience, kindness, everything we never had. Lucian nodded and looked at the grounds once more. The cross in the middle of the arena was stained brown with old blood. It needed to be removed. Never again, he mumbled. What's that? Killian asked. If you're addressing your people, you need to speak up. He nodded and raised his eyes, then his voice. Never again, he repeated but louder. No more, no more, he exclaimed. No more. It was quiet. No whispers, no coughs, no questions. Just pure silence as the crowd waited for what would come next. No more deaths, he announced. As of today, things will change. Yes, Killian added and clapped his brother on the back. Lucian will be your new packmaster. His voice rang out. I have become packmaster to another tribe. This leaves it open for Lucian to rule in my place here. Killian squeezed his brother's shoulder once more. And there's no better man to do the job than Lucian. But he's like his father, someone called out. He'll he'll rule he'll rule in fear. Lucian closed his eyes. The wind blew gently, and his hair tickled his forehead in the breeze. Images of his father's last breaths invaded his mind. He squeezed his closed eyes, willing the unshed tears away. I need you to. Killian started. Lucian placed a hand on his brother's shoulder this time. No, he whispered. It's okay, and they deserve an explanation. Lucian sucked in a deep breath, and his stomach felt like an endless pit of despair. He needed Sarah here with him. If she were by his side, all things were possible, including getting through this moment with his pack. He missed her and longed to have her back. His heart ached with her absence. His wolf whimpered internally. Tonight, he would run the forest and cry as loud as his wolf's voice would carry. My people, I ask you to hear me out. My father was wrong, very wrong, in how he ran this pack. He ruled with terror, fear, and death. No one was safe. He trailed off and in a softer voice. Not even me. He cleared his throat and continued. He's dead. He was going to kill my brother, take his family and his new pack, and it wouldn't have stopped there. I needed to do something. We needed to do something. We needed to do something, Killian corrected. Lucian nodded and looked at his brother, and in that moment he felt the rumblings of something he wasn't familiar with. He read when the Alpha Spirit was near. He read when the Alpha Spirit was near. It was felt in the very soul of the man who would take over and rule. The past Alpha's strengths, memories, and leadership would be absorbed into the new Pack Master. Lucian didn't think he was good enough to be Alpha, even when it was the only thing in the world he wanted. Some of that was his father. Hell, all of it was his father. But in his own inner musings, he knew he would never be enough, wanting it for the simple fact of being Alpha and deserving it. Earning it, appreciating it, were two very different things. Oh, I've been waiting for this one to get done so I can just sit down and binge read all three of them, which I think I already finished the first one. But I need to get this one and I need to get the second one. So that way I have all three and I can just read them. Because that's what I do. I can't start a series. I don't like to start a series until all of them are written. That way I can just binge them. I become a grumpy bear if not. Let's see. Some of that was his father. Hell, all of it was his father. But it was his own inner musings. He knew he would never be enough. Wanting it for the simple fact of being Alpha and deserving it. Earning it, appreciating it were two very different things. And all that changed the moment he looked into Sarah's eyes. We'll have a funeral for Richard, but that's as far as it will go for the man. And if you'll have me, I'd like to lead this pack to a different type of future. I witnessed a new way, a new life we could have. There would be peace. We would live in as much harmony as we could muster without singing campfire songs. Killian chuckled. You're doing great, he whispered. As the silence ensued, Lucian wasn't so sure he was doing anything for any kind of vote of confidence. With a sigh, he stepped forward to offer an alternative when someone stood and began to clap. Lucian blinked and stared at the man. The stranger's face had a smile on it, and his eyes twinkled with delight. It's about fucking time, the man yelled out. Lucian smirked and turned to Killian, then back to the man. Another person stood, then another, and before long, over half the pack were clapping. Then the crowd exploded into chaos between claps and cheers to boos and screams of rejection. He allowed the pack members to have their moment before he stood taller and rolled his shoulders. He felt himself relax a bit and let go on a long breath he hadn't realized he had been holding. He moved across the stage and held his hands up, gaining their attention as the crowd began to quiet down. He spoke again. I am not my father. I saw his mistakes. They were horrid, and I wish I could take the memories away and bring our lost family members back. I'm not going to lie. It'll be tough as we adjust, but I promise you this, I will not rule like you did. Pack life will now be just and fair. Just and fair. You will all be heard, listened to, and if aid is required, you'll receive it. We're going to start anew. We'll have our laws, but they will not be his. They will be ours. I need you as much as you need an alpha. All I ask is your forgiveness. The arena was silent once more. Someone could drop a pin and it would echo in the silence. Spoken like a true alpha, Killian whispered to me. You've got this, little brother. I wished I could believe you, said Killian. He told Killian. There was a part of him that knew he indeed could do this, but also the demon inside his head screamed, the voice of his father, who would constantly remind him he was never good enough. He had never performed to expectations, and he'd fail no matter what he did. He would never be Killian. He sucked in a deep breath and pushed the torments aside. He looked at Killian. Thank you for being here. He held his arms open and his brother smiled. He pulled his brother in for a hug and the two squeezed until it almost hurt. Tears burned behind his lids. He let go of Killian and turned toward the crowd. You've got this, Killian whispered. We'll see once the funeral is over and I stake my claim as Packmaster. The blaze of the fire burned, the flames reaching high into the sky. The body of Richard Blackcrown burned until only ashes were left. The wind picked up and the blaze danced in the wind. Ashes blew about in different directions. Lucian turned his back to the fire to face his pack members. Men, women, and children lined the area. Many had expressions of uncertainty, and he couldn't blame them. Never able to leave because of the fear of being hunted down and killed, not being able to stand up to their packmaster when he wanted their women, and the dread of being strung up in the fighting pit simply because you were labeled as weak. Others had smiles with anticipation written on their faces. New lives, new expectations. Then there were those who had no visual cue at all, the unreadable. Sometimes the plain, out of sight person could be the most dangerous. It was the quiet termite in the wall that could cause the most damage. Now that his pack were termites, not that his pack were termites in the least. Thank you for coming out for the funeral, Lucian started. We're not here for him, a woman told him. She was middle-aged with a long scar down her cheek, a scar given to her by her father. We're here for you. He nodded. And I thank you for that. I'm here today to become your next alpha, your new packmaster. If there's anyone who wants to challenge me in this claim, you're welcome to step forward. I don't want to be savage, the way Richard would order it to be, fight or die. No, we'll fight it out until one of us yields and submits to the new alpha. It's the way it should be, not a fight to the death. Step forward to put in your claim for the throne. If no one objects to my birthright to the role, then we'll begin the alpha ceremony in the coming days. But it's Killian's birthright, not yours, the same woman objected. Yes, you're correct, but Killian has left this pack and has claimed another. We'll be allies, but not enemies, Lucian answered. Lucian will be just and fair. He'll be a great leader if you'll give him a chance to prove it, Killian offered. Lucian lowered his gaze to the ground. He kicked at the dirt, sending a rock across the grounds. He took in a long breath, then let it go. He thought back to a scripture his mother once said to him, and he often repeated it to himself. So many of us prefer the predictability of our own misery. Was this Lucian? Did he prefer to live in his own unhappiness that he would let go of anything positive in his life? No, that wasn't him. Not anymore. Not since he met Sarah. He knew he could be different and wanted that chance to prove it. He was not his father. He wanted different. He needed new. He had a desire just for her, his mate, mine. You all saw what our father did to me when I returned. He chained me up, tormented me, and threatened the life of my mate, Cordelia. My mate, Cordelia, my wife, you all met her when we were here prior. She's pregnant with our first child. The audience erupted in a round of claps, congratulating his brother on his soon-to-be child. Lucian side-glanced his brother and flashed him a grin. And you'll be a great father. As will you when the time is right. He chuckled softly. That won't be for a long while yet, Killian shrugged. I thought the same, and look what happened to us. She's due soon, and I cannot wait to see my son or daughter. I still don't understand why you chose not to know the sex. It's not often I'm surprised by much these days, you know. In a positive light, I take what I can get. Killian pulled Lucian to him and hugged his brother. Lucian closed his eyes for a moment and squeezed him. I'm sorry, he whispered. About what? Killian asked, and took a step back, releasing his hold. For being such a dick for so long, there's no excuse for my actions. I hope one day you'll forgive me. Killian smiled, his eyes crinkled slightly from his laugh lines. Brother, there's nothing to forgive. Promise. Now, I need to get back to Cordelia before she decides to punish me for being gone too long. He said with trouble. Please send word to Sarah. Let her know I miss her. Killian nodded. Will do. His brother turned and left the arena. Many of the villagers also returned to their homes. In time, it was just Lucian and a few of the single female pack members. He wasn't interested in entertaining anything with anyone tonight, unless it was Sarah. Lucian made a mental note that none of the pack members approached to put him for the challenge to the throne. He was curious about this, but decided to keep his thoughts to himself. He figured once Killian was gone, they would begin to trickle in. He didn't expect forgiveness overnight, or trust, but he hoped to gain it soon. Once upon a time, Lucian Blackcrown salivated at the chance to prove to his father he was alpha material. He had a bloodlust that was untamed. Not quite like his father's, but it was dangerous nonetheless. He would have done anything, said anything, been anything to gain his father's approval. But in the end, he knew, deep down, he made the right call by ending his father's life. Murder was not right. It was wrong in every sense of the word. But to protect his own life and the life of Sarah and her family, he did what needed to be done. One day, Sarah would understand this and forgive him. Of course, he prayed for this turn of events as she'd not accept his calls or see him. But since she was his mate, at some point the call of her wolf would fight her and push through, bringing her to him. Else it would potentially make her ill. Ignore the call and she could fall sick to the will of the wolf. It happened before, and he hoped she would see reason and understand why he did what he did. Until that day, he would need to take over his new pack and gain their trust, their following, and for them to accept his leadership. Chapter 2. Pacing the floor, Sarah glanced at the clock once more. She watched her sister Cordelia as she paced and absently moved her hand over her stomach. Cordelia's pregnancy progressed perfectly, without issue. Soon, Sarah would have a new niece or nephew to spoil. The sun was setting and fall was coming to an end. Soon, soon there would be snow on the ground. A chill was in the air, and Cordelia shivered, pulling her sweater tighter around her shoulders. Here, let me make us a fire, Sarah offered, and picked up pieces of wood Killian had chopped down a few days ago. She stacked it in the fireplace and shoved pieces of paper inside. Striking a match, she set the paper and wood aflame. She blew gently on the embers until the fire licked the top toward the fireplace bricks. Come and sit next to me, Sarah offered and held her hand out for her sister. Cordelia took it and with a groan managed to sit down, her legs folded under her. What is taking him so long? Cordelia sighed and leaned against her sister. I figured he'd be back by now. Killian left a few days after their father died, escorting Lucian back home. The events continued to play on repeat in her head, even during her sleep. She had nightmares of Lucian chasing her with a maniacal laugh, yelling out that he would kill her because she wouldn't conform. Sarah woke in a sweat this morning, her heart pounded. She longed to see her mate again, but she also needed to deal with the fact he committed murder when he took his own father's life. She quickly wiped away a stray tear that slid down her face. Then she sniffed. Sister? Cordelia asked and sat up. She touched her face and turned her to face her. What's wrong? Sarah shook her head and turned away from her sister. Nothing. Don't lie. Come on. Is it Lucian? She sighed. She couldn't hide how she felt. It was all over her, from her attitude toward the pack members, even the way she was short-tempered. She was known for being a spitfire, but not like this. She was stressed and knew she needed to decompress. Who was she kidding? She needed Lucian. He was her mate, and without him, she could potentially grow sick, especially during the next full moon. She could she could shift at any given time she wanted. That wasn't the issue. But when it was a full moon, the magic was stronger. Everything was clearer, and with the knowledge that she found her mate without being claimed, well, it was a recipe for disaster. First, she would fall ill. Next, the fever would consume her until delirium set in. Finally, her wolf would take charge and she would shift, and there was a good possibility she would not be able to change back. She couldn't let this happen. I miss him, Sarah whispered. Then go to him, Cordelia offered. Let him say his piece. No, she started. Then her attention went to the door. Someone was on the porch. The wood creaked under their weight. She leaped to her feet and placed a firm hand on Cordelia's shoulder. Don't move. I wasn't going to. Her sister answered, I'm kind of big here. Any other moment, Sarah would have laughed, but right now she wanted to make sure it wasn't some stranger. She peered through the peephole just as Killian was pushing his key into the deadbolt. It's Killian, she announced as she opened the door. Killian lifted his brows, a grin sliding across his mouth. Honey, I'm home. Sarah rolled her eyes and sidestepped the front door. You're a dork. Thanks, sis, he teased her. He walked past her into the living room and sat on his knees next to his wife. Sarah took a chance and stepped outside, looking around. She didn't think Lucian came with him, but wanted to also give her sister and her husband a minute to catch up. She leaned against one of the posts of the porch and wrapped her arms around her waist. She really wanted to see Lucian, needed to be with him, but she was still angry as hell. He killed his father. Who does that? A man desperate to escape a prison built by his own father, that's who. She sighed and let her head relax as she stared at the ground. He did it for you. He did it for you. Startled, she turned. Killian stood in the doorframe. She shook her head and turned her back to him. No, he did it for himself. Come inside, he asked her and touched her shoulder. Let's talk about it. There's nothing to say, she answered and shook her head. He did the unspeakable. As your packmaster, I'm asking you to come inside. If it turns into an order, I don't want bad blood between us. She slowly turned to face him, her blood already boiling. You dare to order me inside? There will be a fight. I'm already pissed off as it is. I understand, but I'm still your alpha, and Lucian is my brother. And I'm your sister-in-law now. Your duty is to me and my pack, not him. Now you sound like a child, he told her. It was quiet between them for a heartbeat. Then he added, but you're right. My duty is to you and yours now. I'm asking you to please come inside. We need to talk. Killian returned to the house and pulled the door closed behind him, keeping the heat in. She shivered uncontrollably from the cold. With a groan, she stepped back toward the door, acting just like the child Killian called her out to be. She took in a deep breath and mentally counted to 10. Opening the door, she went back inside and locked it behind her. As she moved into the living room, Killian and Cordelia were sitting facing one another. Cordelia was turned slightly and leaned against her husband as he rubbed her back. Sarah tilted her head slightly as she watched them silently. She wanted this from Lucian, to have him here with her, holding her, tending to her needs, loving her, making her his mate, his queen. She shook it off and cleared her throat. All right, so let's talk. Approaching her family, she grabbed a throw pillow from the couch, tossed it on the floor, then sat down on it. She stretched her feet toward the fire, warming her frozen toes. Killian adjusted how he sat to face both sisters. He ran his hand through his hair and sighed. Right. I won't sugarcoat it. Lucian did what he did for you and for our pack. Our father wanted to take over this pack and combine the two. He was never going to stop and never change. He threatened to also take you and Cordelia as his wives. Sarah, Cordelia stated, that is why Killian is here as part of our pack. He left it all behind when he abdicated the throne. Lucian didn't have that choice, but once he saw who his father really was, he made his choice. Sarah shook her head. It doesn't excuse the fact he killed his father. Our father, Killian corrected her. I was there, Sarah. I saw him when it happened. Lucian is still riddled with guilt, not only over what he did, but the fact he lost you in the process. Sarah's eyes burned with unshed tears. She pulled her knees up to her chest and wrapped her arms around her legs. Resting her forehead on her knees, she asked, how can I even ever trust him again? In time, Killian offered. Give yourself time to trust him again. Our father was mad with power. He wanted to rule everything and everyone. If you didn't conform, he'd kill you. You are no more than a means to an end. Lucian firmly believed for many years this was how pack life was supposed to be. I tried telling him otherwise, but he would dismiss any ideas that were not our father's. It wasn't until he came here with Richard that he saw how life could be, how a pack master should rule, and how there were no fights, no murders, no stealing of mates. He saw this life because of you, Sarah. He realized there was a way to live in peace without violence. He wants that and needs you in his life. Don't turn your back on him too hastily. She appreciated what Killian was doing for his brother, but like she said, she needed time. There was a darkness inside Lucian that needed to be explored, tamed, and settled once and for all. She never backed down from a fight, but if it was a suicide mission, then she would have no other option but to turn her back and walk away from him and the life they could have had together. But first, she needed to truly understand Lucian and hopefully get their lives back on track. She wasn't sure yet if that meant the two of them reconnecting to attempt to build a life together, or if she would need to end things now before feelings made it worse. But if she chose the latter, she would need to deal with the repercussions of her wolf, and her beast may not leave her a choice. Julie, do you want me to read chapter 3? I'm asking because I know this is the last book, and you have the two previous books that are all part of the series. I don't want to give too much away. So that's the reason I'm asking. It's totally up to you. I can read chapter 3, not a problem. But, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Chapter 3. It's been said some are born great, some achieve greatness, and others have greatness thrust upon them. Lucian wasn't sure where he fit into any of these three categories at the moment. Always playing second fiddle left a sour taste in his mouth. He would never be enough, never be alpha, never be Killian, at least in his father's eyes. However, with how things had shifted, he longed to go into the past and fix things sooner than allowing them to continue on as they did. He felt like a damn fool for betraying his brother and listening to the rules of his father. One could say Lucian didn't know better, but he did. Deep inside himself, he always knew, and that's what made this much harder for him to accept. Self-forgiveness. Pacing the floor of his den, he started when a knock on the door. When a knock sounded at the door. With a sigh, Lucian walked over to it and turned the knob. On the other side stood his brother and his bride. He opened the door fully to allow them entrance. Cordelia's belly was swollen. A lot. She looked as if she were due any minute. She strolled in wearing a long tan winter coat. When she opened it, Lucian couldn't help the smile that pulled up the corners of his lips. It's hard to imagine I have a niece I went, it's hard to imagine I have a niece or nephew waiting to make their grand entrance into this world, he told her. She grinned and made her way over to him. She pulled him into a hug. You'll make an amazing uncle, you know that? She let him go and patted his cheek. Lucian glanced behind them through the door, hoping to see Sarah come through. Killian cleared his throat. She's not with us, brother. He let a long breath go and nodded, then closed the door. I was hoping she'd come, but figured as much. She's as stubborn as you, sis, he teased Cordelia. Me? She feigned shock, then grinned. You should be talking. Killian placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. Give her time. Running his hand through his hair, he lifted his brow. How much time? The alpha ceremony is starting soon, and he closed his eyes in his shoulder sack. I don't want to do this without her. I need her here. He opened his eyes and looked at Cordelia. I'm determined to prove to her I've changed. I need her as my mate. I can't do any of this without her support. It would mean everything to me if she were here and gave me, a chance. And he spoke the truth. He had no idea what love was until he met Sarah. But now that all the pieces had fallen into place with their father, Killian being alpha of the Golden Pack and Lucian to take the Blackcrown pack was his own. As his own, he needed his queen to share his kingdom with. He began to pace again and held his hands behind his back. He thought back to the waterfall, the first time they'd made love, and the way he knew life could be. His heart ached, and he didn't want to live this life without her in it. It was as if Lucian had been asleep his entire life until Sarah walked in it, and he opened his eyes for the very first time. Then he began to rethink his stance on things. She knew how he felt. He made it obvious in his declaration of love. Why wasn't she here? Anger began to rise and he stopped pacing. He glanced over at his brother, then his sister-in-law, then his brother once more. Why the hell is she not here? You're her alpha. Why didn't you make her join you? Killian chuckled almost uncomfortably. He shifted his gaze to his wife, then back to Lucian. Have you met Sarah? She's more stubborn than my wife. Nothing by that, honey. He turned to Cordelia with a grin. You're not forgiven for that statement. Not yet, she started. What is it with you men? First, Killian runs off for his own alpha ceremony just to come back here and get himself captured. Now you, she shook her head. What is it with you two? You, she started on Killian and pointed to his chest. You're our alpha now, and Lucian does have a point. You could have made Sarah come. Killian chuckled again. Yeah, sure I could have, but she would spit in hells if I did. So what? Don't let her act like a child. Would you let your own spawn act that way? Spawn? Lucian asked. You're next. I'm not done with him, she threatened. Lucian's brows went up in surprise, and a grin tugged at the corners of his mouth. So this is what Killian had to deal with being married to one of the Golden sisters. He rubbed the back of his neck and imagined a life with Sarah where they would argue about what they would have for dinner, who would do the dishes, and who would be on top while they fucked in his bed. He'd given anything to have that happen here and now. And you, Cordelia started and poked Lucian in the chest. He must have tuned her out, and missed what else she accused his brother of. What the hell did I do? He asked. You need to get out of your own way and stop with the fucking pity party. You fucked up. We all do. And by fucked up, you mean I killed my father? He suggested to her lightly. She shrugged. Well, yeah, that's kind of dark. You think? Killian added. Shut it, she warned, and turned back to Lucian. Pull up your big girl panties and tell her how you fucking feel. Show her what she means to you. Don't take no for an answer. Make her listen. You have it in you to do this. Do you not want to be alpha? He took a step back and Cordelia advanced on him. In any other situation in life, this woman would have made a hell of an alpha. He thought about her question. Did he still want to be alpha? Yes, a part of him did, but the other part, the man who realized there was more to life through his mate's eyes, he would give it all up if she wouldn't do this life with him. Yes, he answered, but only if Sarah is here with me as my queen. Good Lord! Cordelia groaned and closed her eyes. Look, I know it's a lot, but she cut him off. No, oh God, no, not now. Cordelia doubled over and braced her hands on her thighs. What's wrong? Killian asked and had her in his arms in an instant. The baby, it's coming. Oh, holy hell, it's coming. She groaned again and started a weird breathing technique Lucian didn't understand. He took a step back and stared in bewilderment at the scene unfolding before him. What do I do? He asked. I have zero experience here. And I do, Killian explained. Send word to Sarah that Cordelia is in labor and get her ass here now. See, I knew you had it in you, Cordelia said through gritted teeth. Right, I'm not telling her like that, Lucian said to himself and made his way quickly to the kitchen. He picked up his phone and opened his contacts. He stared at Sarah's name for a moment and considered dialing her number, but she probably wouldn't answer. He put it down and went back to the den. Killian and Cordelia on the couch and sat behind her, holding her frame in his arms. Give me your phone, Lucian told him. Why, you have one. If I call Sarah, she won't answer, Lucian told him. Give him your fucking phone! Cordelia growled, then howled out in pain. I need a fucking doctor. Where's your doctor, Lucian? I'm calling him. He honestly didn't think to call the doctor, so he was glad she brought it up. Killian tossed his phone to his brother, and Lucian caught it. He opened the contacts and scrolled to find Sarah's name. He pressed the dial and waited. Hey, brother, you and my sister made it okay to Blackcrown? She was silent for a moment, and Lucian couldn't breathe. He was suddenly gobsmacked hearing her voice. Killian, are you okay? Is Lucian there? She was quiet again, then sighed. Is he okay? Lucian cleared his throat. This is Lucian. What the hell are you? Stop yelling, he interrupted her. This isn't about me and you. Cordelia's in labor. You need to get here as fast as you can. Hey, Raven. What? Shit. Okay. I'm on my way. Sarah? What? She said hastily. For what it's worth, I look forward to seeing you. The line was quiet again, and he wondered if she hung up on him. Sarah? I'm here, she whispered. I'm not coming for you, Lucian. He closed his eyes. He wanted to record in his memory bank how his name sounded coming from her lips. I understand. He didn't, but what else could he say? His heart was breaking, but to have her here, even if it were just for Cordelia's childbirth, it was something. I'll give you my room when you arrive, and click, she hung up. She sighed and lowered the phone. He sighed and lowered the phone, pressing the button to end the call. He handed the phone back to Killian, feeling defeated. She's coming, he mumbled, and turned his back to the pair, until he heard Cordelia scream. He jumped and whirled back around, getting out of his own misery for a moment. Tell me, what can I do? Rags, towels, and call the doctor, Killian said. Lucian nodded and pulled his phone out. A moment later, he dialed the man's number. Dr. Frank, I need you at my residence. My sister-in-law is in labor. Okay, that's it. Oh, thank you, Raven. It's gotten long, I guess, for you, huh? You come in just a little late tonight, sister. All righty. So, what y'all think? Everybody gonna go get the series? Whoop whoop. Yes. Julie, good job. Now I'm intrigued. Now I want to read all of them. Okay. I found Julie on TikTok, wasn't it? It's actually the cover. The cover is so gorgeous. I fell in love with the first cover and I was like, that's it. That's what I want to read. I'm trying to figure out what's torn up. Raven, when you gonna write me something new to read? So tomorrow night, I have the moon's gift. All right. That's it. And by Amanda Steele, Volume 1 in the Moon series. So y'all need to come back. Looks like a sports one. So y'all need to come back and read that. How many books do you have out, Julie? Or have you written, rather? I was wondering why you were calling her Asian Raven. I just thought it was some kind of secret. 31 books? 18 to 20. Wow. I got some catching up to do then. So I like your style. Are they all shifters or do you write, I mean, are all of them basically supernatural or do you write anything else? I with Raven, you never know. I thought she was just you guys had a secret, she had a secret pet name for you or something. Although I didn't, I knew you did look Asian, but hey, what do I know? All right. So the rest of you, make sure you show up here tomorrow night for Amanda Steele's the Moon's Gift, and then go out and get the series. Wait a minute. This one's not going to Vampire Shifters, Demons, Fallen Angels, dabbled in contemporary and the Misadventure series. Firefighter. Ooh, I like firefighters. Raven, you're nowhere close to being old. Don't even go there. Besides, if you're saying that you're old and you're saying Julie's old, and we all know Julie's not old. You're not old either, Raven. What was I going to say? Crap, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay. All right, ladies. Have a great evening. I'm going to go in here and spend some time with my man since he took his nap earlier. And then I'm going to bed. I'm going to have to take something for my throat, though. I don't know what the crap's going on with it tonight. Oh, it's been doing this all day for work, so it's probably a stupid phone calls. Where's my little dandies? Where's my little dandies? You're going to have to come make them yourself. All right, ladies, have a great evening. Julie, thank you so much. Raven, I'm looking for you on the schedule for next year, so you better hurry up. So, you guys have a great evening and happy reading.